iPhone 7 versus iPhone 8 versus iPhone SE 2020 coming up. Let's go. So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. iPhone 7, 8 SE. Let's begin with pricing. So the iPhone 7 right now, you can find it refurbished secondhand around 100 to 150. Of course, I'm coming from the US perspective. The 8 around 200 or so, 250, maybe 3 if you find a brand new one. And then we have the iPhone SE from 2020. This one is going to run right around $400 right now. So talking about the key specs, we go from an A10 right here to an A11 to an A13 CPU. They all do have single cameras on the back that are all capable of 4K video recording, but this one is 4K 30, this one 4K 60, and this one also 4K 60. They all do have 4.7-inch Retina displays, and they all do have a pretty healthy amount of RAM. These two 2 gigabytes, this one right here 3 gigabytes, and I say healthy because that's enough for iOS basically. And talking about the build, the feel in the hand, the iPhone 7 is the only one here with a matte aluminum kind of feel on the back, and I actually like this feel a little bit better than the glass. The glass feels like smudgy, oily with your fingers, stuff like that, but it does enable premium feel, it gives it a little bit more heft kind of. And then also it does have wireless charging on both of them, so iPhone 8 and iPhone SE 2020. But overall, the overall dimensions and size, they're both very thin here for the iPhone 7 and SE, thin there for the iPhone 8. So we're talking about phones that are all pretty compact, pretty lightweight, pretty easy to use one hand. However, I will state that neither of any of these are actually as small as the original SE, the 2016 model. And talking about the display differences, because here's where I'm like, okay, we should have seen a little bit of an upgrade here in 2020, because we all know that the 7 and the 8 has essentially the same display. It's the same brightness, it's the same resolution. And while there's no real complaints about these displays, we have True Tone here for the iPhone 8, made it a little bit better in terms of, I feel like Apple could have put this in the iPhone 7 as well, but it made it a little bit better in switching between the different ambient bright settings. Now we also have 3D touch on both of these, and all of these have dark mode enabled by iOS 13. Let me bring the brightness down now a little bit on both of those. But the SE comes along and it has in 2020 the same exact display. Now I don't know about you, but I was hoping that we would get a little bit sharper display, maybe all screen. Maybe we'll see that with the 5.4-inch iPhone that's supposed to be pretty small as well. But this one loses the 3D touch, so it's actually slower to punch into things. It has a haptic press now, but it does give you True Tone, Night Shift, and Dark Mode, just like the other two. So displays across all of these are literally the same. The experience, and while maybe there's a little bit of a boost in the contrast, a little bit balance in the accuracy, no average consumer is gonna think about that at all. They're gonna think they're using the same display. So if you have an iPhone 7, an iPhone 8, or SE 2020, you're getting the same software across the board. They all have the latest versions of iOS, and they swipe up from the bottom. I like that all of these, you can still see the battery percentage right up there in the right corner, but I mean, swiping left and right through your applications, the polished iOS apps you're used to, there is literally no difference in using any of these phones. And this is a key reason why you might want to consider not upgrading to the SE 2020 if you have an iPhone 8 or you have an iPhone 7 if you're looking for a change in experience, because there is none. If you absolutely love and adore your 7, but your battery's trash, something like that, you want to just get something to stay on that same experience, you'll love the SE. But other than that, the experience is going to be identical with a little bit better performance on board. And that'll bring me on to performance. We're going to go ahead and run a Geekbench between all of these and do see how the scores do come out here. Now, we did do speed tests between all of these already, and you've seen that the iPhone 7 and 8 did quite well, but I'll be back when their Geekbenches are in. Okay, guys, so here's their final Geekbench scores, and you could see big bumps here to the SE 2020. So big bumps in terms of multi-core score and even single core, especially over the iPhone 7. So again, if you like this design, you want to hold on to it for a while, just go ahead and upgrade yourself to the SE. I also wanted to mention One more thing about the SE that's different, that Apple logo has come down to the center. You've probably seen this already multiple times, but it's just something a little bit neat and different about the iPhone SE. Also, the Apple logo looks a little bit bigger on the SE versus like the iPhone 8 and the 7, and it doesn't have the iPhone logo down there. And I think depending on your country, you might have like some little garbage can, little recycling information, stuff like that, depending on your location. And when it comes to storage capacity, you could get the iPhone 7 with as low as, 32 gigs, but this one right here at 256, you can go max 256 gig on that. Over here on the iPhone 8, you can get this boy with like 64 or 256 gigabyte available. And also over here with the iPhone SE, you can get this one with 128, 64, 256 gig. The moral here is that all of these have plenty of storage options for you. Audio performance on all of them is stereo speakers. The iPhone 7 was actually the first one to bring the stereo speakers to the iPhone, as it got rid of the headphone jack. And then over here for the iPhone 8, it also has the stereo speakers on here. And then the iPhone SE also has them as well down here. But what was a little bit disappointing for me with the SE was that it didn't really improve too much on the iPhone 8, but the iPhone 8 got better than the iPhone 7. So these two are about the same. iPhone 7 is probably the weakest of the bunch when it comes to the speakers. And talking about the battery life on all of them, here is an area where I already compared them. I'm gonna put the, the battery drain test. You might wanna check that out. It was pretty interesting to see how they did. But the iPhone 8 and the SE, man, these things were pretty much the same. If we go to low power mode, they can all, save you some more battery life here. But the iPhone 7, man, this one definitely is the worst of the bunch. So if you're looking for a little bit better battery life, these two are better, but they're all not great. None of these are gonna go super long, and there's budget phones competing with these devices that are blowing them away in the battery life. So I would not pick these phones if you're looking for some of the best battery life out there. But you'll hear a lot of people saying the iPhone SE has great battery life on YouTube, stuff like that. It does not have great battery life if you're actually using it a lot. Now, if you're doing stuff with your life, you're out and about, you ain't looking at your phone 24/7, you got things to do, then yeah, it's gonna last. If you're the type of person's on your phone all day heavy, this one is gonna die halfway through the day. Same with the iPhone 8 and maybe even earlier on the iPhone 7. And gaming destroys all of these phones, but the SE does a little bit better than these two in gaming. Okay, so let's talk about the camera. So I have a OnePlus 8 Pro right here. We're gonna use this as a photo example, but the iPhone 7 right here, this one is definitely going to be the worst of the bunch here, mostly due to just how old it is compared to these two right here. It doesn't have the best dynamic range, but here's the thing about all of them. They still do shoot very good video. The iPhone 7 has no real focus issues. The slow motion is good. And what shocks me about some of these iPhones, especially like some of the older ones, is that these can still shoot and take better photo and video than a lot of new Android phones coming out to this day. So that's what's nice about something like the iPhone 7. Now over here on the iPhone 8, we're gonna take a photo of the OnePlus 8 Pro. It got a little bit better here, but it didn't bring the portrait mode like the SE brings. So yeah, just keep that in mind, that the iPhone 8 does give you 4K 60p video recording. So if we go to settings here and we go down to the camera section, 4K at 60, that was the big upgrade for the iPhone 8. Now all of these disappointingly do have the same basic front-facing camera. It's like 7 megapixels, 1080p video recording. They do not go wide on the front, so these are definitely not your best option for a selfie camera. And yes, the SE is definitely the best of the bunch here. So if you care about camera, you're gonna get a major upgrade in terms of the detail, especially on the rear camera for the SE because of its smart HDR processing. It's pretty much like having an iPhone 11, just a single camera. And the video even looks better here for the SE as well. There's no wide angle, but it does give you the ability to tweak different settings within here, like the 16:9 or the square mode. So the SE for me, in the past month of using this phone, I really enjoyed the rear camera, but I've been missing my wide angle. I've been missing my front facing 4K 60 from the iPhone 11 when I'm using this device. So do keep in mind that you're not getting the best front-facing camera and you're not getting no wide, but if you just want a standard great amazing iPhone camera, pick up the SE. This is the best easily of the bunch here. So when it comes to the phone call quality, I can tell you the iPhone 8 is the worst of the bunch here. It had the worst reception of all three of these for me. The iPhone SE and the 7 are pretty much tied, especially if you get the Qualcomm modems in your iPhone 7, but the SE's been pretty impressive compared to the 8 in this area. I've just had better connectivity, better LTE strength, reception, and holding on to that signal. So that's all I got to say about that section. But at the end of the day, the iPhone 7 is feeling a bit dated with that A10 CPU, weaker, older cameras. I'd upgrade this to the SE. If you don't like the battery life you're getting anymore, if you love this design, you love this kind of phone, but you just want it to last a little bit longer because your battery decreased, something like that, I would go to the SE. I wouldn't go from the 8 to the SE, unfortunately, just because the iPhone 8 and the SE are basically the identical experience. It's like you're just buying the same exact phone. If you really want to change, I would take the iPhone 8, hold on to it right now, and wait to see what Apple brings this fall with their upcoming iPhone 12 series if you've already decided against getting something like an 11 or an 11 Pro. And that's basically it here between these three. I wanted to make this video because all of them are so similar, and I wanted to break it down and just kind of tell you what's the real differences here. Now, I know I left out the 6S and the iPhone 6, so maybe you guys want to see the 6 versus the 6S versus this new one right here, just to kind of see if you should upgrade those older boys, because those are even older and there's still people rocking those as well. So thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already. Nick here. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to stay safe, stay well, and peace.